All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. So, edge rushers in the National Football League are kind of like power hitters in Major League Baseball. And the reason why I say that is this: their production tends to come in bunches and waves. Now, this NFL season currently has been nothing but a big wave for Cleveland Browns defensive end Myles Garrett, as he is well on his way to becoming the NFL's single season sack record holder. Through 13 games, Garrett has already recorded 20 sacks, as he is just one of 13 players to get to that mark since the stat became official in 1982. And of those 13 guys, J.J. Watt is the only one who's done it twice. Okay. Now, right now, Garrett is just 3 sacks away from surpassing both T.J. Watt and Michael Strahan for the single season record, which is at 22 and a half. Now, Garrett has recorded at least a half a sack in each game, with the exception of three. Okay. If you go back to the havoc that Garrett has been creating back in October in a loss to the New England Patriots, Myles Garrett had 5 sacks. Okay. Back in about a month ago in a loss against the Baltimore Ravens, Myles Garrett had 4 more. And then the following game against the Raiders, a game in which the Browns had 10 sacks overall, Myles Garrett had 3 more. You think about what Garrett is doing, okay? And, he's got 20 sacks in the season. The Browns as a team have 44, and the next closest guy on the Browns defense has 6.5 sacks. And I mean, he's been a one man gang on a bad team. And, it's one of those where I think because of the Browns' record, I think what Myles Garrett is doing, unfortunately, is going to be glossed over. It's one of those where, we saw Myles Garrett be frustrated after last season. He had 14 sacks for Cleveland, talked about wanting to get out of town and, was looking to get traded. However, once Cleveland agreed to pay him, they basically gave him his hush money by way of a contract extension, and he was willing to stay, of course. Now, I said it then, and I'll say it once again. Myles Garrett had his opportunity to put his foot down in order to go out there and still have a quality season that he's currently having, but doing it on a contender. Just before this season started, we saw the Green Bay Packers give the Dallas Cowboys a pair of first round picks for Micah Parsons. What do you think that the Browns could have gotten back from Myles Garrett? And that's no disrespect to Myles Garrett, pardon me, to Michael Parsons and what he has been able to do. But you're talking about a premier, arguably, if not the premier edge rusher in the National Football League right now in the form of Myles Garrett. Now, Garrett not only has a chance to break the single season record, he's got an opportunity to shatter it because, like I said, he's been a one man wrecking crew all season long. He's been in one of those zones. He's got 4 games left. And you figure if Myles Garrett gets 3 more sacks over the Browns' final 4 games of this season, we're talking about a guy who is indeed the new record holder for the single season sack mark. So you look at this and you ask yourself, how many sacks will we see Garrett finish with this season? It's tough to say because, again, edge rushers, like I said, it comes in bunches. It all comes down to schemes that opposing offenses have against them, you name it. But again, a guy like Myles Garrett is just so talented. He can wreak havoc. And for opposing offenses, he's in that rare air of defensive player that you always have to account for him on each and every play, because if you don't, he's just one play away from making a big difference out there. So I'll tell you like this. You ask, where does Myles Garrett 2025 campaign rank among the best single season performances in NFL history, as far as getting to the quarterback. And I think some of the best seasons that we've seen from pass rushers over the years, in my opinion, you got to think about the likes of Deacon Jones. You got to think about the likes of Al Bubba Baker, and of course, the late great Reggie White. You think about Reggie White. He had 21 sacks in 1987, the strike shortened season. He only played 12 games. Al Bubba Baker, okay, has the unofficial sack record of 23, which he set in 1978. That was also the first year that the NFL expanded from 14 games to 16. And you think about Deacon Jones, like I said, basically the guy who coined the phrase for the sack. Deacon had 3 seasons, okay, where he had at least 20 sacks. Of course, in those days rather, the sack was not an official stat. And on top of that, throughout Deacon Jones's NFL career, it was 12 and 14 games that were played each season. So that just gives you an idea of the company that a Myles Garrett is in right now with what he is doing this season for the Browns. And like I said, he still has more to go because he still has 4 games left. So you have to wonder, is this going to be Garrett's last season in Cleveland? You never know. Um, with the Browns, they're such a mess of an organization, and that's a whole nother topic for another day. But you never know what the off season could bring. And honestly, I don't see. I'll tell you like this: I'm not sure if this is going to be Myles Garrett's last season with the Cleveland Browns, but I will say this: I would be highly surprised if he would finish his career in Cleveland. And I'll tell you like this: Cleveland's got to figure out what they're trying to do because I see an organization that simply does not have a plan, and it starts from the top. So like I said, in another underwhelming season for the Browns, Myles Garrett has been one of the few bright spots, and he has an opportunity to go out there and continue to be a bright spot. You think about it, the Browns are in Chicago this Sunday to take on the Bears. Can Myles Garrett find a way to get to the elusive Caleb Williams at quarterback? Trying to tackle Josh Allen in week number 16 at home. Week 17 could be very promising for Myles Garrett taking on Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers, as they could possibly look to play spoiler against their old nemesis in that division. And then they finish up on the road against the Cincinnati Bengals, the team who they started this season against. But nonetheless, strong season for Myles Garrett. He's on the threshold of history. I think, barring injury, he gets it, as I really do feel we are looking at a new single season sack king in the National Football League. But, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank each and every one of you for checking out the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. And as always, if you like what you heard and saw, you know what to do. Just hit that like button as well as subscribing to this channel. And like I always say, it is greatly appreciated. Also, if you are on the X, formerly known as Twitter, you can check me out anytime at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you give me that follow, it'll be my pleasure to do the same in return. And that also goes for Instagram, and you can check me out at 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge. Also, if you are on Facebook, definitely check out the Sports Depot 365. And as far as I'm concerned, one of the better sports groups going on social media. But until next time, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I'm signing off, and I'm saying thanks once again for checking out the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. Be well, everybody.